Namaste. Good evening to everybody out there who might happen to come by. Welcome and blessings and wonderful and love from Creator Source. What an amazing time. We really do live in a massively amazing time. I'm not quite sure yet what amazing is defined as, but we're going to find out. I'm pretty sure not that far away from us. It seems like to me that the spirit world is very active in a very close proximity within 5-10 years, and of many major things happening. So we just have to kind of live and continue to grow and elevate, and allow what happens to happen to take place, and at the same time allow what happens inside of us to take place. There's such activity, and it's happening in so many places all over the earth, and there's so much information coming out about so many things. And so welcome to you guys tonight. We talked some last week. I shared some really true quotes that go with our lives and with the shadow work, and I guess I don't necessarily have any huge revelations that I intend to share tonight. Next week I suspect that we'll be off into a different deal, so I really felt like I just wanted to come and kind of share with you and talk with you about maybe a direction that you might consider. One of the most amazing things that's gone on has really been the fact that how many people, for all the complaining that there was about us keeping the Torah, how many people don't now know how to function because they no longer have a list of rules or a lifestyle to live by. And so I think that for those of you who've been with me that long and you got to see and experience that, I just say, be at peace. We're walking on the right path, and we're headed in the right direction, and we just have to trust Source for the rest. Source is not going to fail us, and we are walking in the direction and the path in which we should. He wants us to grow. He wants us to come to higher consciousness. I shared a little bit, and I want to just remind you tonight of that sector, that parts of the move and parts of what you see going on. There are many people with really big degrees that are at some levels teaching the same message that I am, and that message is as humans begin to ascend, since everything that happens to us happens in our mind and in the mind of our hearts, we have to understand that all of this stuff is meant for our good. The universe and Source loves us, desires for us to know how to be free and how to live a happy life and how to be prosperous. My goodness, there's so many verses in the Bible as we grow and learn here, pieces that don't really fit with the Jewish ideology, and they don't really fit with Christians' ideology. They fit with a very, very, very mystical ideology that I believe really has always been the path. I've done some research recently, and I've talked to some people, been blessed to people from other countries that I've talked to lately, and they understand maybe more so than most of us Americans that the principles that are taught all over the world in almost every religion, I say almost because I don't think all of them are, but I think most of them are. If you get out of the doctrine and the dogma that men have created, and you begin to just have a conversation about the principles of humanity, I think that you will very quickly find out that none of us are really that far apart. If you go to the Hindus and you read the Veda is all about loving yourself and loving your neighbor. That's bottom line. What is the core text of the Bible? Not that not Christianity, but at least the Hebrew part of the scriptures. Love your neighbor and love yourself. We find that with Yeshua. Love your neighbor, love yourself. And so I hope that you guys will begin to understand that we haven't lost anything with all that's gone on. In fact, we've actually gained quite immensely, because now we have an opportunity to truly find out what Source wanted, and we get an opportunity for our spirits to truly learn how to excel. And so I know there are some that I've been talking to who absolutely understand that this really is happening because of what's going on in their life. And so I hope you guys will understand that this is, none of this is for our harm. And if you are struggling with Christianity or the lack thereof, then you may be a little bit troubled, and I want to just try to sow to that tonight. It's understandable that you are. I mean, that's not a bad thing that you have a conscience in everything you've ever known. I was one of those people who, if it wasn't in the Bible, I didn't believe it. And it's so, for any of you who've been with me for any time to know the drasticness of the changes that I've made in my life is unbelievable. But what's really amazing is that all the things that Source has been doing with me for 30 years, not one of those has been done away with. So I think that we had a picture, and it wasn't certainly a perspective, but it was a jaded perspective. And all that's happening is the clouds that were hidden, the dark mirror that was in front of us that Paul talked about. We look through a glass darkly, but then we will know. What if he was talking about the enlightenment and not the rapture? And in fact, I have to tell you, I do believe that that's exactly right. I began to ponder, because I shared, and some of you have been with me for a while, and you were with me at the end of last year when we went through the book of Jeremiah extensively. What was it, 30 weeks, 40 weeks, something like that? And we came to a point, and it's really the most profound part, because it's the only part in all of the Old Testament that speaks of a new covenant. And I marked and I remarked and I marveled a lot more than you guys have any clue of. I marveled at the power of the words that Jeremiah the prophet spoke and wrote some 3,500 years ago. But Jeremiah said that there was coming a time. Now, if you're a good student, your ears will perk up and you will pay attention. You will give heed. Jeremiah prophesied to us that there was a time coming when, can I use the word source? That God was going to put his word inside of our minds. Hello. Wow. Now, I may be wrong, so please, if I am, I understand it. I accept responsibility for my wrongness. But that sounds like a whole lot to me, like there's some time in history when man is going to begin awaken, and he's not going to need a Torah anymore, because inside of him his consciousness is going to be so high that he will no longer have need of those things, because what he apparently doesn't know now, he will then be able to know. That sounds like exactly what we're in the beginning of that, but that's exactly what's going on, guys. That's why everywhere you hear so much, there's so many channels, there's so many things that are going on. The spirit veil is getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and so the spirit realm and the physical realm are interweaving. The thinner that veil gets, the more that you're seeing spiritual things come out that you've never seen in your whole life. Many lived in Christianity and never got to experience a spiritual situation when we should be living in those without having to go to church uh, every day. So it's it's quite amazing to me that all around us there are people who are trying to figure out and make sense of the things that are going on. Uh, and just to be quite honest with you, there are times when we don't we really need to learn not to try to make sense. We just need to learn how to go with the flow. We need to learn to open our eyes, be very conscious, very logical, and at the same time pay attention to everything that's happening. And so Source always has had a way of protecting his people. Sometimes his people that are protected have to go through some pretty bad things. But inevitably, it's really not important about what we go through in this physical realm as it is what we go through in the spirit realm. So those are just some pieces that about what's going on, and if you're one of those people, then wonderful. So we've been talking. I've been talking about shadow work, and maybe some of you really haven't quite gotten the spirit of that. The reason I wanted to come back tonight because I may have overwhelmed some, or I've been told in the past that I have so much to share that sometimes I zoom and leave people behind me. And if I zoom and leave you behind me, I really do apologize. It's not intentional. I have so much that Source is pouring into me, and things that he's preparing for things that are coming for me. And so sometimes it just kind of spills out in exuberance, and that's okay. I probably won't ever change, and I'm okay with that. I just have to sometimes stop and go, okay, I get it. So what is shadow work? Shadow work is the essence of our subconscious and our consciousness are relatively, in our lives, are relatively divided. Our consciousness is that which we function in our knowledge, and our subconscious runs 95% of our lives. So all of the things that you do that you never think about, maybe you've experienced this. You've driven a road so many times that you can get in the car, hypothetically, you could get in the car at the Walmart and you can end up on your front porch and not really remember what went on in between. I've done it hundreds of times. I was wherever my mind was at, that's where I was in that reality. I wasn't in the reality of driving the car. It was like it was on cruise control. And yet I didn't get stopped, and I didn't get a ticket, and I didn't have a wreck. So I obviously subconsciously was in the now, but I wasn't there consciously. And so as we deal with this whole concept of higher consciousness, then we can begin to understand that it's going to require many changes and many shifts in our life. And one of the problems with shadow work is that I can and do want to be a good steward, and I want to share with you, number one, that you need shadow work. So if nobody else has told you, you really need to begin to study and do shadow work. But one of the worst things that you can do is to begin to study shadow work without intent in your heart to do something when you find it. Because what will happen is you will just overwhelm yourself with what's going on. And I have known people that have done that. They start trying to see the things that go on in them, and they do see them. The only problem is their heart really wasn't in a place with a desire to do something about those things. And so those things are thoughts that, you know, have to enter your mind. They're not your thought. Those things from me won't really help you, other than to give you knowledge that this is where you may want to go. This is where you should go if you want to benefit the most. So why is shadow work so important? Shadow work is so important because it is actually causing the subconscious, on many levels, pain that every one of us constantly endure. If something that my parents programmed me as a child that killed a part of me, and I can't imagine that there's any humans that can't understand that in their life if they look back on their childhood. And so what we do is we press them down and we say that they're not there, and then all of a sudden we come into a situation, something happens, and then there's a reaction to the something that happened, and we don't know why. Have you ever left a situation and you ask yourself why you acted like that? Have you ever been in a situation and you got around some specific people and all of a sudden you immediately changed your whole behavior format just to be around them? Well, all of those things are side effects of shadow work. You can also equate this shadow work. You could ask yourself this simple question, and I would recommend it, and it's a very good start. But just ask yourself initially simply this. Every time that you have a situation, day to day, every situation, every day, you ask yourself, why did that trigger me? And really, there's one answer. Whether you think there's more than that, there's really not. There's one answer. The answer is called ego, and the ego is what your subconscious created. So we create, I shared with y'all that statement, and it's really well known that we spend half of our life from childhood on, we spend half of our life building an ego, and if we're smart, we spend the second half of our life destroying it. Well, unfortunately, as you can tell from your world and the way you live around with the chaos and the frustration and the anxiety, all of those things that are so prevalent in our society are outworkings of shadow work, friend. You don't need Xanax because you have anxiety. You need to do the shadow work and look inside of yourself and come to terms with every one of those individual things that you have been pushing down your whole life that are causing you to fracture. People are using DMT and drugs now to fake the mind into functioning like the pineal gland. And if it helps somebody, then I think that's wonderful. But on the other side, it's really a short-term fix, I think they'll find in the long run. Because if you have a DMT, it's like having an acid experience. You might see colors. I never was one of those that did, but I knew plenty of people that did see colors. And you might get to see colors, but what happens when the acid's gone? There's no change in you. You just had an experience. And so they're using that concept with people that are really, really deep into trauma. And maybe for some, I can see it, especially for people that came back from military who saw a lot of their friends killed. Those things are going to require a lifelong therapy. They're never going to get over that. Okay? They're going to deal with it till the day they die. But for us, who maybe haven't had to live through 10 of our best friends getting blown up in a Humvee, you know, the destruction and the trauma that we lived through in our childhood is just as destructive as a bomb going off, friend. And so that's why I know if it sounds like I'm harping, I'm really not trying to harp, but I do want to harp. We need to love ourselves enough to recognize that these things are affecting us. And so around here, we've begun to see on many levels. I don't know how many times in the last month I've asked myself, why did you let that trigger you? And I let it trigger me because, well, I had to stop and I have to then go back and find what caused the trigger in the first place. So, for those of you who would really like to be free and would like to grow and would like to find a place, I believe there's a place that all of us are intended to be, friends. And this has to do some with the light. If you continue, and I'm not talking that you never have a trigger moment, because even if you do the deepest shadow work and somebody comes up and runs into your car, you're probably going to be you will really have to deal with yourself to keep from getting angry or letting those emotions get negative. Now, I don't speak of us trying to get rid of our shadow, but the purpose of it is to bring those memories up, to come to terms with them and make peace. So why did I get triggered when somebody reacted like such and such? Well, I got triggered for this purpose, but I also got triggered because it's wrong for somebody to behave like that. See, that I can deal with. But the whole purpose of coming to a higher consciousness is being able to look at things that you couldn't look at and you couldn't deal with, and us growing spiritually and mentally so that we can look at them and deal with them and not let them drive us, but instead us drive them. And so as far as the act of doing shadow work, there's about a gazillion 10-15 minute meditations that you can sit in your bed in the morning when you get up for 10 minutes and relax your mind and put yourself into a state of hypnosis, which is essentially what you're doing, and you take a journey backwards and downwards. And I promise you, if you will do that one by one, there will be things that you haven't thought about in forever that start creeping up. There'll be a thought that pops to your mind. There'll be something somebody did to you when you were a 5-year-old child that's been inside of you since then. And I don't care whether you're 5 or 50 or 500, it's still going to be there unless you deal with it. So for some of you, you've been angry. A lot of mine manifests in anger. But I've known lots of people who were spiritual as we knew how to be spiritual, that are dealing with anger problems instead of dealing with love. And I don't know how much of that is still in me, but I assure you I will conquer it. Why? Because I choose to embrace it. And so part of what we have to do then is be honest enough with ourselves to go, that behavior when I was a little kid to throw a temper tantrum worked real well, but that's really not working in my life right now. I know it sounds, maybe to you it sounds a little bit absurd, but that really is the bottom line of everything that we do. As we grow spiritually, we have to ask ourselves, are these things that were in our past? We have to ask ourselves, when it comes to people. I showed you guys for 2 years, over and over and over, Source kept bringing separation, 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 and I got accused by all kinds of people of trying to make people leave their family, and that never was the deal, and neither is it Source's deal. But if these things are going to cause you to be destroyed, then you might begin to consider differently. And so you then ask yourself, oh, well, you just want everybody. No, that's not true at all. In fact, I'm waiting for the day when we all are functioning in the Spirit, those that will ascend. And just so you know, dear one, there are going to be people, there will be a dimensional shift where there will be people who choose not to ascend, and those people will be separated by dimensional lines from those people who are raising their frequency and are separating themselves. I will show you something that you may not have understood. If you will begin to do not only the shadow work, but if you will begin to let the spirit that is you, the Spirit that lives in you, the light that is in you, if you will begin to peel the onion skin and begin to let that light out, you will on your own no longer desire to be around all of the things that you've been. It's just like it's something that happens. I used to surf it sometimes when things were going bad. I used to surf it on the news for hours, all driven by fear, the world, the Chicken Little syndrome, the sky is falling. Well, here's the thing. Did it do Chicken Little any good? Because even if the sky fell, was there anything that they could do about it? Okay, am I happy that all of this is going on in our political world and all of it is going to inevitably is going to affect us? No, I'm not happy, but I also recognize there's not anything I can do. So why do I need to lower my vibrations being mad because the FBI paid yet again the second person to try to go kill Trump? And I don't. I hope Trump isn't shot. I don't want to be shot, and I hope he's not shot. But don't be surprised if they don't accomplish exactly what they intend to do, which is to kill him. Is there anything I can do that will raise my vibrations and stop that? If there was, I promise you I'd already do it. But it would be the same way if it was a Democrat. If the Republicans were trying to kill a Democratic presidential person, I would feel exactly the same way. So it's not about their stupid parties. It's about humanity. And it's time for us as the world to begin to get that revelation again. There's a time in history, friend, thousands of years ago when humans cared about each other. And the only hope that there is for this earth, we are destroying the earth. I don't buy their climate agenda, but we are destroying Mother Earth. There's no question that that's true. But trying to generate electric cars is not going to fix the problem. In fact, all it's going to do is just exacerbate things. So when we come together collectively and we begin to think with a higher conscience, we will come to the answers that, well, millionaires have hidden for hundreds of years from us. Tesla fixed the electricity problem. He didn't need hydro dams. He didn't need nuclear plants. He didn't need diesel generators. He's already fixed that and they hid it. So we truly live in a place that is strange. Shadow work. We all possess a shadow inside of us, and you can choose to not believe that, and that's okay. But I assure you, you're never going to see any substantive change spiritually in your life. Shadow work by nature is not a bad thing. It's not a ghost. It's not the devil. They love to brainwash you with that nonsense in Christianity that the devil made you do it and you bought it. How many times have I heard Christian people say that, well, the devil made me do it? No, the devil didn't. Your subconscious did. Isn't that what we're always doing? We're always false diagnosing things and then prescribing the wrong medication that gives you 10 times more problems than what you're treating. Don't you see that today? We just have a laugh thing around here when one of those stupid ads come on for the next new drug that'll kill you. My hair's thinning, so give me a pill that'll make my feet fall off and my arms be weak, and it's just like, are you kidding me that you people even buy this nonsense? But we do. And so that's a problem. Not so much for me, maybe, and maybe not so much for you, but for someone, it's a horrible problem that's allowed in our society. So I would encourage you, I would even implore you that you take the time. I know you won't do it if you're not interested about finding the path. And if you're not interested about finding the light inside of you. And for all of those that have been with me for a long time, I told you when this stuff started coming out, that people think it's going to be easier. I haven't found one person who believes it's easier to walk in the spirit life than they did in the rule life. Now, they hated the rules, but the rules gave them a pattern. And now you have no pattern. What are you supposed to be like? What are you? What are you? Well, we spent all of our lives never dealing with the base things so we could actually expose who we really are. Because, my friend, we are light. We are love. Father loves us. He's not deterred by our mistakes and our failures, even if we are. And so, as we grow and as we go along, I hope all of us will come to a true deep-seated place where we begin to recognize that, yes, things aren't and haven't been taught to us in the manner in which they should. But it's up to us still to choose to change those things, even if no one else does. And so if my message resonates with you tonight, then there's a pretty good chance that you probably either already have or that you will begin to take the words. Maybe something else will come along and give you an aha moment. Maybe you'll hear somebody else you listen to more or whatever that will end up saying the same words. That's not at all uncommon. I realize that we can't be everything to everybody, but we should be something to somebody. And that's exactly what the Apostle Paul said. So, give it the value that it deserves. You deserve a better life. You deserve to live a life and to be able to manifest a life that is what you believed life should be. And you can, but it's not free. So, take those things. It may be a little bit scary to you to go down into your core to that abuse you endured when you were a child. I have many people around me who suffered a lot when they were a child. I know these things are true from my own personal, but from everybody that I have talked to that's real, every one of them have said pretty much the same words. Sometimes the biggest struggles I have are the struggles that are inside of me. And the hardest part is first coming to that understanding with yourself, coming to peace with yourself. We're told that we're to love ourselves before we love our neighbor, because we can't really love our neighbor if we don't love ourselves. And then we walk around filled with false programming that's been beat into us by our family, our parents, our brothers and sisters, the people we went to school with, the public school system, Christianity, on and on and on. And it doesn't stop when you turn 7 years old. That's just the main basis is laid down by 7 years old. You're doing that as recently as yesterday. And so we really do a lot of self-destruction. A lot of the things well, I'll just go back, I'll recant that, and I'll state it clearer for you. What's happening inside of you is what your reality is today. If you are angry, discouraged, and depressed inside of you, your life is causing anger, discouragement, and depression. You want to fix your life, you want to change your life, you want to change how people view you, change how you view you. And it's the most important thing, and it really is so sad as we go along how much peace there is to be had from just the simple understanding that God loves me. It's not like I believed it was. He's not sitting up there. The person I hurt the most is myself when I do things, if you want to call it sin, when I do things that get between me and source so that I lose that spiritual connection. If there is a sin, that's the sin. Wow. All the things that we were told. And so then there's those who go, oh, well, you know, I thought God was talking to you, but now I realize that it was just you. And my friend, if you don't understand that Source is constantly trying to talk to everybody, then you really have a long ways to go. Source is talking to us, whether it be through spirit guides, whether it be through angelic hosts, guides, protectors. Source is trying to get the truth to us constantly. The problem is that shadow work I'm talking about, part of it was to program you so you would disconnect from Source. I know you may not understand that, but that I haven't ever spoken a greater word than that one right there. I know so many people that live lives, they're fractured, they're broken inside, and there's no hope for those people. They will live unhappy, die, karma will kick in, and they will be back down here, and they will suffer again, and they will live and be unhappy and die, and karma will kick in, and they will be back down here. Now, there is a split that is going to come as people begin to ascend, and the people who are ascending will no longer continue to build karmic pain. I'm going to use that term. So as we go up, there's less need for karma. As we stay low, karma still functions. So if you want to get out of the rat race, I don't want to come back. I'm a light worker, I'm an old soul, and I've been on this earth many times, and I'm not interested in coming back. I've seen all I need to see. I've experienced all the love down here that you can experience. I've experienced all the pain that I've seen. I've seen the horrible things that man can do to each other, and I'm not interested in coming back. I'm ready to go on with eternity. And if I get to a point where I need to come back, then I'll come back. Just like everybody else, I'll sign a contract and I will come back into this earth again. But as things sit right now, I recognize fully inside of me that Source has made a path for us not to have to come back. They want you to come back, because as long as they keep your energy and your frequency very dense, then they have a constant source of people to come and fear. And they feed off of that. If you know anything about the spirit realm, fear is the thing that they love. You don't believe me? Go listen to mediums on television. They'll tell you that what spirits love is they love to terrify you. That's why ghosts do things in a house, is to terrify the people so that they then, the spirit feeds off of that fear. Folks, that is universal. That's why the narrative of politics is about fear. The Democrats have to raise the negativity and the fear impact, and guess who they're using to do that? And the Republicans have to do the same. Look at these crazy people and the things that they're doing. Whether you like it or don't, they're both doing exactly the same thing. They're just simply doing them differently. But it's the same thing for the same person. If I keep you in fear, your density is infinitely denser and your frequency is lower, and you are locked in, and I thrive on your fear. Why do you think terrorism works so well? You terrorize people, make them scared, and the Taliban is over there shouting and having parties in the street, waving their guns, teaching their children how to kill Americans, and Americans are over here chewing their fingernails while they can't figure out why the leaders of this country keep telling people to give their guns up. How about I give my guns up as soon as you take all the AK-47s away from everybody else in the world? Is anybody seeing any of this? It's a scam, friends. We've been birthed into a matrix. It's a scam. And the same principles work and function in every level of life until we get out of here and we truly become the light that we are. Beautiful little orbs of the most magnificent light that you've ever seen in your life is what we are. So, well, I guess I've shared about that. I've had some, and I wanted to share this. It's kind of a bold step. I don't know about right or wrong in this situation, but I'm just going to do it anyway, just because I can. But many of you have seen things about the supernatural. You've seen things about past lives. You've seen things about near-death experiences. And this past weekend, all of us here together went and experienced a spiritual experience through hypnotism. And my testimony, I can testify about what I've done and seen. And I have to tell you, quite mind-boggling. Quite mind-boggling. And since some people have asked me, then I feel like that we should. It's a spirit world. Many people don't know anything about it. We're gonna start reading if things work out. If it doesn't, then we'll do it again later. But we're gonna start reading a book about people doing exactly what I'm fixing to share with you. Since we have many lives, it's very possible maybe we also had a life in this time frame. But for me, my journey began like this, friends. I was in a house as we went through this narrative, and I came out on the front porch of this house, and I realized that this house was a huge mansion, and I was looking over this large, broad expanse of land, and it came into my conscience while I was standing looking at an oak tree very similar to this one, only not exactly like that, but it would have been looking at a picture in the South like that. And I looked down at my hands to see what I was, and I had on gloves, fingerless, frilly gloves, and a parasol in my hand. If you don't know what that means, go back and research history. You'll find out real quick. And I realized that I was on our plantation. And so we moved from there. I fully recognized it, fully knew what was going on in the picture that I saw. And I could and can get into much more detail. I'm being very broad. And the next scene in this regression that I see is I'm standing on the same porch, different day, but standing on the front porch of the house, huge, tall, white columns. And there was a commotion out in the front yard, and the same tree that I was looking at before. And there's a person who rides in on a horse into the front yard, and there's people, all kinds of commotion going on in my front yard. And a person rides in on a horse and shouts this exclaim. And this is what I heard. Lincoln has been shot. Wow. Wow. And so we moved to another time, and they're ushering me out. and ushering me to a tree, and I'm not real sure that it's not the same tree actually in the front yard. I didn't so much grab that initially, but I think that that's it. And they point me to something up in the tree, and when I looked up in the tree, my husband named Stu was hanging by his neck. And all around the base of this tree were Union Army soldiers standing, Union Army soldiers sitting on horses. And so things begin to make sense. And if you've never done one, it's quite amazing. You will be totally blown away to see these things physically in your mind and know them. And the next thing that I experienced, and what is so funny, before she asked all of us the question, I realized that I was already panning like I had been running. And then the picture came into view, and I was now wearing a white dress, running, and I could hear horses, or a horse at least, behind me, and the sound of the hooves clomping and clomping, and they were chasing me, and I was running as hard as I could. I was out of wind. I tripped on a rock and I fell down, and of course the big hoop thing that they wore in those dresses during the 1800s, I rolled over basically on my face on the ground, and when I rolled over and to sit up, I looked up into the eyes of a Union soldier on a horse, and he raised his pistol and he shot me. And that, my friend, is what a past life regression is. Now, I promise you, I had none of those. It's very detailed. Even more so, it overwhelmed me when I read it written out. So here's part of why I felt like that I needed to share this. We have all of these pictures about what life is based on supposed reality, that it's appointed unto every man once to die and then the judgment. Well, here's the question and here's the problem. If the Bible's right, I have no clue about where any of those details came from. See, they both can't be true. I didn't experience a judgment. In fact, here I am in another life as a man. So, what it does for me is it validates that as much as I hate to admit it, I need to admit it, and really, to be honest with you, you need to admit it as well, that we've been massively lied to. And the truth of the answer is none of us know what the truth is. The journey I'm on, and if you hang with me, the journey you will also be on, is the journey of looking for what is the truth. Will we ever find all of the truth? I doubt it. Can we know some of the truth? I absolutely believe that's true. But I will tell you this, if I went from there to here, in the middle there was a situation in the 1930s also. The only difference was I was a man and had a wife sitting at a table. Wow. So, we've been so brainwashed and pushed into a box that this is the truth and it is the only truth, and if you dare get outside of this, what's going to happen to you? You're going to hell. And you're going to stand in front of an angry God who has the Akashic record in his hand, and the Akashic record keeps every word, every thought, every deed that you've ever done. I don't say that there isn't a record of that, because there is. But its purpose is not that God's going to use it against you. Its purpose is for you to look at it. So I know I've gotten off on the deep end for some of you. Maybe you don't understand it. Maybe you can't even allow yourself to believe that reincarnation exists. It's okay with me if you don't. There was a time when I didn't. I thought that was all a bunch of junk, all them people that walk around in them orange robes in downtown Austin did. But I have to say, without reservation or hesitation, I certainly don't believe what the Bible says. I can't make sense of those two. One I saw and one I haven't ever seen. So I hope that you guys, it does matter. It does matter. What karma did I bring from that life to the 1930s? And what karma did I bring from the 1930s to here? I mean, I might have been Al Capone in the 1930s. I don't know. We didn't look at that situation like we did the other one. But I guarantee you, when I get an opportunity, I'm going back and I will look at that situation. Why is it important? Well, dear one, on some levels, it's really not important. On other levels, it's extremely important. I've seen all kinds of nuances. How did I know? How did my own mother state of me that I was born in the wrong time, that I should have been born during the Civil War? Now I know I was. I lived it. That's why it's so dear to me. So, pretty interesting. As I said, I'd been asked that question. I felt like everybody, maybe some of you don't ever have thought these things. It's funny, I've had several people come forward and tell me. One told me he's had 4 or 5 different situations in his life, and he's always kept his mouth shut. In fact, I was very close to this person for 20 plus years, and he never said a word to me because he was scared of what Christians would do to somebody who had a spirit experience where they saw something and it was so real as if they were standing there. How horrible to live and not be able to freely express what you've experienced spiritually when it was Source who causes us to be able to experience spiritually. So tell me how you're close to God. Think about what good might come out. We hear this over and over and over and over again, that people that died in past lives, I haven't quite yet put the pieces together of what the fear, but I have to tell you, when I looked in that soldier's eyes right before he shot me with that 45, I have to tell you, I've never seen any more hate. No, I've never seen anything as horrible as the hate that I saw in that in that Union soldier's face right before he pulled the trigger and killed me. It was one of the most horrible things I've ever, it was as if I really was right today, was standing there and he put a pistol in my face and shot me. And it was the most horrible thing. What did I get out of it? What I got out of it is folks, I got a first-hand look at how horrible and how evil humans can be for a cause of their government. It would be like somebody who has a past life regression and they end up over in Hitler's time and they're standing next to Rommel. You can't imagine the hatred that exists in humanity. And I don't know about you, I have no desire to be a part of that. I want to learn how to live in total peace. I want to learn how to get rid of those triggers that cause me to be angry, or cause me to be anxious, or cause me to be overwhelmed, or cause me to be any of the thousands of different things of emotions that we humans have because of the stuff that's inside of me. And so, are we going to end up in some places maybe that other people are scared to go? Yeah. The only question remains is, are you scared to go? So, Blessings to each and every one of you. I hope that you will take the time. If you haven't been meditating, first off, I would like to comfort you that there is no right or wrong. It's all a progression. It's all a learning. Some people learn really quick, and some people don't learn really quick. Some people struggle with quieting their minds, and other people just fall into quieting their minds. It's really not different than anything else in life. But I promise you, even if it isn't easy for you, if you'll do the work, if you will find these little guided meditations which are readily available, dealing with shadow work, and you will dare to take the time to close your eyes and quiet your mind and begin to go inside of yourself, you will be amazed at what will meet you there. And then you have an option to continue to live as you have, or to begin the overwhelming, amazing, mind-boggling blessings that come out of you meeting who you really are. I did want to say, I told y'all that I've kind of started a jewelry company. It's called Crystals with Intention. This is not so much, I guess, about the jewelry. It's about the protection that comes from the things that Mother Earth gave us, that Source provided in this earth. And whether you know it or not, there's a reason, as I said. It's funny, I heard somebody else say this recently. It's wonderful to Christians that the high priest of Israel had a breastplate covered with crystals and could do supernatural powers only when he wore the crystals. I'm sure you missed that, and I'm sure your preacher certainly didn't tell you that. But these things that come out of our earth, friends, have all kinds of different benefits and powers that go along with them. And so my purpose of doing this is to give you protections that you can put on your physical body. I don't know about you, but I encounter a whole lot of negativity. Everywhere I go, people are negative. Every now and then you find one person who has a light shining, and you're drawn to them because it's another light worker. And so, if you have a desire, I certainly am open. Drop us a line on ahopmo mail. I'll be happy. I do these things kind of as a design build. There's a purpose inside of each and every one of them. This is one that I've just finished, which is amethyst and crystal and several other really powerful stones that's going to Austin, Texas. And so I hope that you guys will take some of this stuff really seriously. It is quite amazing how fast your life will begin to change if you will allow it to. Well, I'm not gonna hang on anymore. Blessings to each and every one of you. Can I tell you again? God loves you. I don't care how broken you are. I don't care how dysfunctional your family is, and unfortunately, a lot of our brokenness comes from dysfunctional families. And guess what, friends? They're all dysfunctional. So the only difference might be is how drastic your dysfunction is versus somebody else's. But then, of course, on the other side, we're not supposed to judge ourselves amongst ourselves. Why? Because everyone is going through something. And so, shalom to each and every one of you. We're going to be back on Saturday. We've got some killer music we're going to play. We're going to check out the Kabbalion and Patanjali's aphorisms, which are very, very applicable. I think that it should be relatively clear and easy for you to see that while these are two, and I did this on purpose, we're talking the two separate ends of the world And yet, have you noticed how many of the pieces of both of those completely different writings, how they mend together? It's all over the place, friends. God is love, and in God is no darkness at all. He's all light all the time. And he's in me, and he's in you. Dare to let him out. Namaste.